Hi, thank you for joining me today.
Hi, happy to be with you.
I'm so excited for us to be able to be in the studio together today. Christina, I'm such a big fan of yours for years. I've watched your work, happy to be able to work with you currently with a client. And one of the things that I most admire, we were talking about this a little earlier, is the fact that you custom tailor your services to your client. You really listen. And I know people complain about realtors not listening too. So I understand, I'm not putting any, because we're guilty of that as well. We get an idea in our head and can sometimes, if we don't watch ourselves, we can kind of steamroll the client and not listen to them.
Yeah. You have to be open to what the client wants and needs. I think sometimes, I would say on the real estate end, there's certain things that you really need to do in order to get a home ready to sell or for it to show well when you have showings. And to get the photos right when you're listing a property, you really want those photos to look amazing, especially during this time when everything is done remotely. I know you guys are doing virtual open houses and, realtors are really doing everything they can to think outside the box and keep things moving for people. Just because the economy is slow doesn't mean that the real estate market is dead, right?
Absolutely. But what's really helpful, whether in any situation, but especially now when we're so isolated, is helpful information. And like I mentioned earlier, Christina works with her clients. She certainly has a very elegant aesthetic that comes through in all her marketing. And she listens to their lifestyle. She custom tailors, whether it's a pro athlete or empty nesters on the main line, whatever the lifestyle is, because I think people are afraid of realtors. They get afraid of designers. And from what I've seen and heard, it's that fear that you're going to design a showcase, but then it's look like a showcase, but it's not my home.
Right. I mean, one of
I'm sorry, we have a little the bandwidth. I think we got a Wi-Fi issue here. Just please hang on. Please don't go, because Christina has an offer for everyone attending. There's going to be a fabulous offer at the end of our broadcast. So let's see if we can get her back live. In the meantime, what I'm going to do is, she was kind enough to send me some examples of some home offices that she has. Well, no, I'm not going to, we'll keep her there. We're going to share a screen here. These are some designs that she has done for clients for remodeling home offices. Oh, Christina, there, you're back. I'm sorry, it must be a Wi-Fi issue. Can you hear us? Okay, here we go. Sorry for the delay. All right, so we're going to do our best, and I know Christina will talk about these when she gets back on live. This is, part of the fun of live broadcasting, just as we're watching Jimmy Fallon and all of them go through little glitches. So I just want you to get a feel, if you can see that.
Hi.
Hey, I went ahead and dove.
Can you see me? I'm so sorry, I lost you there.
I know, I did. So I went ahead and bragged about your work and brought up some of the.
Oh, thank you so much. And, I can expand a little bit on, what it means to work with clients and really get into their heads, and I know what you mean. Like when you work with a designer, sometimes a designer has a very specific aesthetic, and it's really, it's about kind of them and what they're known for doing. And what I'm really known for doing is helping clients find their point of view. And I think that shows when you look at our portfolio of work. Some of it is dark and moody. Some of it is very light and airy. Some of it is like heavy color. Some of it is very neutral and light and easy. So, we do beach homes. We do modern homes. We do transitional, which is, what we call it when it's kind of in between modern and traditional, which is very much suited for the main line and the suburban areas of Pennsylvania around Philadelphia, because, it's a transitional style doesn't scare away anyone has more of a traditional aesthetic. And then it also isn't so modern. So it really balances to appeal to a wide variety of buyers.
That's exactly the point. And, it's a tough balance, and that's what sells on the main line, and it's so hard
Absolutely.
to, it's not completely, you don't have to be completely modern, but it has the modern aesthetic mixed in with the traditional features. And
Absolutely.
those homes go under contract quickly. Some of the builders now are building that into their new construction. So it has the aesthetics of the historic architecture, but
Sure, you always want to honor the architecture, right? But you also need to find that balance of appealing to your potential buyers. So if you're someone who's in our area who, has a historic home, I mean, there's so much history in Philadelphia and the surrounding areas that homes can be 100 years old. And while as a designer, I always want to honor that architecture, you absolutely also want to make it feel current and have your space represent. I mean, it's 2020, right? So we're not designing for a lifestyle. 100 years ago, things were very different. I mean, that was barely into the Industrial Revolution. So, I mean, I think overall neutral palettes are really good when you're talking about selling a property. And just remember that the majority of young families are millennials. The parents are millennials. So I know, baby boomers many times think of millennials as little kids, but hey, we're in our 30s now.
and early 40s even, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that is exactly the aesthetic. And the other part of it is the greater Philadelphia market is very different than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. We've become discovered. So, whether it's New Yorkers moving or
Sure.
relocating, it's the buyer base for the greater Philadelphia area is much beyond the local neighborhood and the networking within that sphere of like-minded neighbors who might have a similar style to theirs. But
Sure.
I know we have so much to talk about. We were going to talk a little bit about home office tips, since we're all struggling. In my social media,
We're all working from home.
We all have a little corner somewhere, and the husband and the kids have their corner, and somebody else has the laundry room, and there's like 4 Zooms
And the
going on in
dogs
the house.
and the cats and the whoever else, right?
Exactly. So it is a good time because I realize, as you're talking about what people are looking for, home offices have been considered an amenity that's desirable, but really now it's a necessity.
It's
So
essential,
more
for sure.
important than ever. But before we get too deep into that, don't go away, because I want to hang on. Christina's going into some a little bit deeper on what we touched on in terms of interior design tips and helping your home really shine in today's market with today's luxury trends. And some questions and answers. Be sure to post your questions in the chat. We will see it. I'll put your question up on the screen. And also share this video with anybody that you know who might be struggling, because they'll want the special offer access also. So home office, I mean, do you have like a top, what is the biggest design struggle or solution, however you want to approach it, for a really beautiful functional home office?
Sure. So a home office, as we all know, if you're, back in a corner of a room without a lot of great natural light, that's not really great for productivity. If you're in a basement where there's low ceilings and bad lighting, I mean, you want to be in a space that's near a window. You need adequate lighting. You obviously need access to plenty of outlets and, whatever to keep all your devices running. And it needs to not be so small that you can keep your sanity, but also you don't want to be in a wide open space. It's better to be in a room that's enclosed, almost like a small bedroom, rather than a wide open basement or a wide open dining room that has a full view of the living room, for instance, because that can be very distracting. Maybe the vacuum's there and you're like, man, I wanted to put that away, but I shouldn't be doing that. I shouldn't be doing laundry right now, even though that laundry basket has clothes in it. Because you want to be able to stay focused and you want to stay productive. And the type of room that you work out of is gonna have a huge impact on that. And it shouldn't be too cluttered. There shouldn't be a lot of distractions. And you want to make sure we have a white noise machine in our house. So it's just a little guy about this big, and it's got an internal fan that makes white noise. And that way when Ted, can hop on a call, he can close his door. And if I'm having a video call with you, I'm not distracting him, or if the cat's meowing or whatever it is, so that's a really good thing to use while you're working at home and there's multiple people at home trying to be productive.
A fond associate of mine is in a classic situation. She and her husband are working from home, and then I think it's 2 or 3 adult kids are home from college. So you've got 3 college kids and 2 adults working all of a sudden from home when nobody was doing that before. So.
Sure. People are watching TV, they're on the phone, they're having a video conference. I mean, all kinds of stuff is going on. Even if somebody's cooking, you could get a whiff of the food, you could get hungry. I mean, there's so many distractions.
Quite often in the luxury homes I've seen, you'll see it situated for 2-person home office, like his and hers, so to speak. Mm-hmm. What's your feeling about that?
I love that. Do you mean when it's kind of like a suite with a room in the middle, or do you mean when it's actually a shared space?
It's a shared space. Quite often they'll see where someone took a large bedroom, for instance,
right.
And then have one person's desk over here, another one over here.
Sure. I think as long as you're not working at the same desk, it can work. I think it also depends on, how heavily you need to be video conferencing. I mean, if you're an executive and you're dealing with administrators, of a company that's of a decent size, odds are you're going to be on a call throughout the day. And many times it's video calls. Like during this time, almost everyone, at major companies has transitioned from, it used to be the case that you might just hop on a phone call and have a chat and look over an email together. But now, people more than ever really using platforms like this and Zoom and, FaceTime and Google Hangouts and using all those video tools. So I think it really is going to depend a lot on, how much you rely on those tools, how much you're using them. And there's really no short answer. But what I will say is, you don't want to be looking at each other. You need to be facing opposite directions. Each person, there also needs to be a balance and not like a hierarchy, like your desk is better than mine, or you are near a window and I'm not. And then, because then there could be some turmoil.
That's when you turn into marriage counselor / designer, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, one of the things when we're talking about, working from home and struggling through the changes with COVID-19 and stay in place and so on. One of the unique things about your business model that I so admire and been in place for a very long time is, yes, you're a local girl. You're from the Philadelphia area. You serve the main line, Rittenhouse, Center City, Fishtown, all of them.
For almost 10 years, yep.
Yeah, but you also have clients long distance. Long before there was, any stay-at-home criteria. Your business, like mine, has been digital for a very long time. And I wondered if you could share a little bit about how that works, because whether your client, what you use to work with a client who's in Denver or LA applies now if there are COVID restrictions that a homeowner in Rittenhouse or Gladwin or Bryn Mawr, they can work with you digitally if we still have difficulties with, the traditional way of consulting.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've done digital renderings and presentation boards for years. I think before COVID, we all knew that, the design world, you see it on HGTV, and it plants the seed with the clients that they think everyone is doing renderings. Everyone is like got these video, sort of opportunities and technology platforms to use. So it almost, as a business owner, you've always got to be thinking 5-10 years ahead. And, I think the reality is that I've always, we've been in business, we'll enter our 9th year in September. And since day one, I've always thought to myself, who are our competitors who are doing virtual design, and how are they structuring things? Can we make, a style quiz or a survey where people can answer questions or select images and, have that basically take a survey and then report back to us so that we get insight on, does the client love neutral spaces? Does the client love dark wall colors? Does the client love colorful spaces? So, I think it's always been moving in a digital direction, but now more than ever, we're aware and it is upon us. So I'm very, I feel very fortunate to have had the the ability to see that well in advance. And I've always, kept my company green in the sense that, sales reps who represent the companies that we buy our furniture from, our furniture, rug, lighting vendors, many times, always, they want to send me catalogs. And I just send them an email and I say, we don't hold a big library full of books and shelves. We just don't. Everything is online. And frankly, if a vendor with designer furniture who wants to sell to us, and we have such a great book of business, if they can't give us what we need digitally, we don't do business, and that's how I've always run my company. And that's not for everyone, and that's really not the way most interior design businesses run. Most designers have a huge library with binders and books. And we do everything online, and we render boards using tools like Illustrator and Photoshop and different, technology platforms that we can utilize in order to create really beautiful presentations so that the client understands what the space is going to look like as soon as our design research is over. And that's how our presentation goes. That presentation before COVID, I would always print out on a 16 by 16 inch foam core board that's high quality print and gloss and beautiful. But I mean, the reality is that I can just send them the PDF exactly the same way. And you and I in real time can look at the same document, and you'll be able to wrap your head around what that's going to look like.
I think this is a great time to put a little teaser out about the giveaway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody share this video with your friends. Anybody that has a problem spot in the house, whether it's just irritating you because you've been at home 24/7 for 7 weeks, or you might be thinking about getting ready to go on the market. Christina's offering a giveaway of 5 complimentary consults on your 3, I think it's the 3 toughest spots in the house, or furniture or
Exactly.
arrangement.
Yeah, what you can do is you can take photos, guys. Take a photo of your living room or your dining room or your kitchen, and let me know in the comments below what your challenges are, and let me know if you're wanting to list your home or if you're just wanting to make it more manageable during this quarantine time. What should I do for this space? I'm doing up to 3 photos as a maximum, but I'm happy to give you your insight, and we're going to be announcing, Susanna, I'll let you explain how we'll announce the winners.
Okay, stay tuned, because we're going to cover a couple more things. And I'm really curious about what it was like to work with the property brothers, but that's just my TMZ nature. So. But one of the critical and really difficult topics, and I understand, it's so hard as a homeowner who you love your home. When someone comes in, and I'm usually the bad guy that comes in and starts talking about staging and depersonalizing. And, really, truly, I empathize and understand, but I'm like the doctor that tries to tell my patient what they need to hear, not what they want to hear, because my commitment is to accomplish their goals. It makes such a huge difference on the net at the end of the process, that it can help, it's worth being a little uncomfortable to accomplish, the big goal at the end. But so I ask everybody to, if you hate the word staging, if you've heard it from 5 different people, please bear with us. We're both kind, compassionate people. We know how you feel, but I think you'll love what Christina has to say. We just have some tips for you to consider. And, so because it is what we really need to talk about.
Sure. And let me just say up front, Henck Design is not a staging company. We don't rent out furniture and then move it in and then redo your house temporarily for sale. What we do is permanent interior design work. And I know you know that, Susanna, but I want to explain that to everyone. However, there's always do-it-yourself tips and tricks that I can give you that you can do while you're at home and you're trying to figure out, should I paint this wall or should I move that sofa? Or, what are things that I can do around the house that are gonna make my home more appealing to a potential buyer, whether I'm listing now or I have foresight to do it 3, 6 months, 9 months out. So I would say, there are some typical things that you will hear people tell you, which are remove family photos, less is more, declutter. We've all heard these tips, so I won't harp on them too much, but just know that those are important even though I won't go into them in too much detail. I think, one opportunity we all have during this time is to organize and declutter and clean out spaces. I think a lot of people are probably delving into their basements, organizing things, labeling things, dusting things, sweeping, and just general kind of spring cleaning, right? And we're not even a week into May. So spring cleaning is still very much a thing that people are doing. And while you're in the basement and you've cleared out space, I think that gives you an opportunity to maybe thin out some furniture in your main rooms, depending on your style. I think most people in the suburbs have larger rooms, which allows for more furniture and larger scale furniture. But keep in mind, the more furniture that you move out of that space, the more open the room becomes, the larger the room seems. Did you ever buy your first home and you walk in and it's empty and you think, wow, look at all this space. And then you move in and you bring your furniture and it feels small. So keep that in mind. I deal with that with clients all the time. You come in to see the new home and you do your initial walkthrough and you're like, wow, this is such a huge space. And I have to remind them, well, just remember when we bring things in here, it's not going to feel as large and open necessarily. So, when we design for clients, obviously we always choose furniture that's proportional to the space. The scale of the furniture is correct for the ceiling height and the widths and all of that. So my number one tip would be remove items. And if you have a family of 2 or 3, or maybe even 4, and you have a large sectional sofa and 3 chairs and an ottoman and a stool, and maybe, 4 side tables, maybe thin those out. Maybe, bring it down to 2 side tables. You don't need, if you're not sitting actively in those armchairs in the room, put them in a storage unit, put them downstairs in the basement, because that really is going to make your room feel a lot larger. I think another challenge with more traditional homes, especially on the main line and many times just in suburban areas around Philadelphia, even Rittenhouse, if it's a historic home and the owner, has family heirlooms that are like antiques, I think sometimes those are good things to remove, because remember, the potential buyer for your home is a millennial. I think it's okay for those items to be present. I'm not saying like go out and buy new furniture or stage your home necessarily in order to sell it. But what you can do is thin things out. And the way to identify what to thin out, I think, should be based on the style that a millennial might be drawn to, which is going to be more simple, more streamlined, more neutral. So if you have heavy wood side tables and then you have light kind of beachy side tables, I would leave the beachy ones and I would pull the heavier wood, more traditional items out, just because it's going to appeal more to the buyers. And then my last tip I would say that's really important is, and Susanna, I know that this is going to resonate with you, because we all have fun. Well, sometimes we have fun with colors on a wall. Have you ever walked into a dining room that's red or maroon? Do you know what I'm talking about? That was a trend in the early 2000s.
Oh, so my goodness, yes.
So if your home has not been updated in terms of color palettes and paint and maybe your millwork and trim, if that has not been updated since the early 2000s, 2000 was 28 years ago. It's easy to lose sight of that. So I like to recommend my favorite paint color, and it's on the wall right behind me here. This is Sherwin-Williams Repose Gray. REPOSE gray. It is my go-to color. It never fails. I've used it in homes where I've advised clients when they wanted to sell their home. It cools off the space. It's a good, true, neutral, light gray. If the light is really bright in the room, it almost reads white, but it's not a warm gray. So there's warm gray that's going to lean more on the beige side, and there's cool gray that's going to lean more on the blue side. Okay, Repose Gray, this particular gray, which I'm a big fan of. I'm a mirror image. I keep pointing on the wrong side. it's a true neutral. So if you have warm lights, it's going to look warm. If you have cool lights, it's going to look cool. And I've used it in homes to sell that we've rehabbed for clients and then put on the market immediately. We've used it when we just wanted to update the palette, but the client didn't really want to commit to like a real color or anything dark at all. It really just cleans the space up. It feels fresh, it feels light, and this is always going to appeal to a millennial buyer.
What's great about that neutral is, what I love to see is that you can use a signature piece of art, some colorful throws, and then you can switch the color palette without having to paint, right?
It's like the classic solution of not buying a print sofa. It's like buy a neutral sofa and then you can pop it with print and colorful pillows anytime. And if you decide in 2 years that you're more interested in purples and blues, and then a couple years later you want to go greens and blues, then you can very easily switch that out without having to spend a couple $1,000s on a new sofa.
One of the things that's so valuable about your input, and thank you for explaining that you don't do staging, is, I quite often work with sellers who were on the market before and it didn't work. So I hear how frustrating it was for them. And I think that it becomes a little suspicious when people are charging for, that they get a little suspicious about the stager, and then you have all these different stagers coming in. And I love staging and I work with stagers.
And it works. It
works. But to have advice from someone like yourself, you're not here to sell furniture to them. It's just strictly consultative advice, from the highest source, and
absolutely
something you can trust.
And we deal with clients in the luxury market. I mean, we create permanent interiors, again, whether your style is kind of dark and moody, which is not a lot of the main line. That's more like the modern city clientele that we have. Most of the main line in the surrounding suburbs, I won't leave all the other suburbs out, but the homes are more transitional, which is what I explained at the beginning. It's usually light, it's neutral, it's not too traditional, and it's not too contemporary either. It meets in the middle, and that's great for people who may have leaned more traditional in the past, which is the majority of, I would say, baby boomers, suburban homeowners. It's a way for us to create spaces that not only appeal to a lot of people, but certainly appeal to the construction styles and architecture of the homes in our area.
Excellent. That's exact medicine that people need to hear from a design standpoint.
And paint that red wall. Paint it rose gray.
I remember going through home after home, and then when the do-it-yourself, like when you're doing it yourself on a red wall, the colors is not clear, and the edges are
yeah. And let me also say that if you're painting a dark wall, if it's a red wall and you're painting it repose gray, do 3 coats, because it's gonna, a lighter color going over a darker color if you're DIYing this and you're doing it at home. And I will also say, Sherwin-Williams, I bought some paint and they are bringing it out to your car, so you don't even have to go into the store. So that's a little plug for my friends at Sherwin-Williams. But make sure that you are buying a quality paint, and make sure that you are also, being careful with the painter's tape and not doing too sloppy of a job. You don't want people to know that it was a DIY thing that you did during quarantine, and make sure, that you have enough coats on the wall so that, any color that's underneath would show through.
Or reach out for referral, because we both have some resources.
We absolutely have plenty of painters we can connect you with, I'm sure.
Okay, so we got that, the decluttering, boxing things up. One of my favorite tools when I'm helping sellers get ready are those Kmart bins. Sometimes, just put them in a bin, stack those in the basement or the garage, and it helps you get ready to move. Any other top tips? I know curb appeal is an issue when you're coming to sell.
I would just stress removing furniture items that you don't use day to day. If you have a dining room table with 10 chairs and you're a family of 4 to 6, then eliminate those 2 to 4 chairs. It's going to make your dining room look larger. It just is, because there's going to be more space. And the more spacious your home looks and the more light it looks, the better off you're going to be. I will say that I think there's an opportunity for lighting. I think you could pay attention to what color bulbs you have in your fixtures. If you have overly warm bulbs and say you have a beige on the wall, I mean, the room is going to feel very warm. Warm light makes you feel sleepy and relaxed, which is really nice if you're cuddled up on the sofa watching a movie. But if you're coming in to see a home, you want the light coming in to feel like natural light. So, and again, this is about balance. You don't want to have a blue light bulbs in your home, but you also don't want super warm light bulbs in your home. And if you're able to add light fixtures during this time, to hire an electrician, or if you have a handy husband, and you can add light fixtures in areas that are a little bit dark, maybe you upgrade your vanity light in the bathroom. Nobody wants to do their makeup in a dark bathroom. So think about lighting, think about space, think about wall colors. Again, and if you paint your wall a light neutral gray, like that repose gray that I'm recommending, that's naturally going to add light to your space if there was a dark wall color on the wall in there. So you're, in some sense, you're adding light without having to add any light fixtures.
That's excellent. Excellent advice. So I should have mentioned this in the beginning. If you don't know, Christina's, her company is award-winning, nationally recognized. As I said, she's local. She works out of New York. She works out of Denver, California. She's been on HGTV with the Property Brothers, who I'm a fan of. But they make everything look so easy. Are they as nice as they seem?
They are, and they're more handsome in person. They're really tall, good-looking guys, and they're funny. They have great senses of humor. So
that's nice to hear, because that's my impression, that they're the same off screen as
they are. They are.
Yeah. Well, be sure and send any questions you have. Christina's offer is going to last for 24 hours. Do you want to go into details now?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm offering, a quick 30-minute phone call. We'll do a Zoom call with 5 people. So I'm offering you guys, anyone who's watching here, tag somebody in the comments below, or you can nominate yourself if you have a room in the house that you really want to update. Or if you think that you're going to be listing your property for sale, like in the near future or immediately. Hopefully you'll use Susanna here. She's amazing at what she does. And, but yeah, leave comments below, tag your friends, tag your family who you think might be listing a property. And I will spend about 30 minutes on a call with you. You can send up to 3 photos for submission, and I will give you some DIY tips on how you can rearrange your space and address your space so that it will be very appealing to potential buyers.
Thank you so much. And please know that we're not here to sell anything. So even if you're not thinking about putting something on the market, you might have a college age kid who's going to be with you all next year because the colleges are shut down. You might have to rethink, how you're planning your interior space just to get through the next 12 to 18 months.
Now is the time for DIY for sure.
Absolutely.
If you have some extra time on your hands and you can afford a $60 can of paint, then you can probably update a thing or two in your house. So if we can add value for people who are stuck at home and ready to get out there and do something cool and add some value to their home, I'm more than happy to help.
Thank you so much. That's exactly what we're here. We're all in this together, and want to reach out digitally because that's part of our business style before the virus, but also just to reach you at home and let you know you're not alone. There's resources, there's information.
And we post all the time, Henck Design at henckdesign.com. You can find our blog. There's a lot of DIY articles there where you can find how to take care of your indoor plants and have them look really good, how to lay out your living room. There's all kinds of blogs there. We're on Pinterest. So if you're, thinking about buying a new house and you want ideas on what that can look like, also, we're on Instagram. We post pretty much daily and have lots of Instagram stories. I'm always posting DIY stuff and examples of our work. So if you need inspiration, you know where to find us.
Thank you so much, Christina. You really inspire me.
Thank you. So fun to chat with you today.
All right. Well, we'll stay in touch, and maybe we'll be back here again soon.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
You too.
Okay. Bye-bye.